This is a special edition of Late Night Health, and I'm really pleased to bring back to Late Night Health Jacob Teitelbaum, MD. He's got a number of books out. His latest book is an update from fatigue to fantastic. We'll be talking about that because I think right now the country, if not the world, is fatigued. We are fatigued with all the news about COVID-19. We'll start that conversation about COVID-19, what we can do to protect ourselves from it. Dr. Teitelbaum, welcome back.
Mark, awesome to be with you and with the listeners again.
Yeah, it's been far too long, almost I think 10 months or something like that since we've done this. Um, let's get your take on COVID-19 to start. Is this a serious situation in your case? It's a pandemic from my standpoint, but again, I just talk about this stuff. You know about it.
Yes, I again, first of all, let me start with my politics because this has become so politicized. My politics is that the right wing and the left wing are part of the same bird. It's not, to me, it's not one is right and one is wrong. Both sides have a lot of good stuff. Both sides have a lot of nonsense. My interest is what does the research show? And I go straight to the research. The research shows that, again, this is not the plague. The plague killed one half of the European adult population. This is not the Spanish flu that killed 3.3 out of every 100 people. This is killing 1 in 1,000 adults. So basically, there's a big difference between 3 in 1,000 and 1 in 100. So it's important. Every life matters, of course, and we need to take proper precautions. But we have a bad habit in this country of terrorizing ourselves. Basically, the media loves anything that scares you to death and makes you hate everybody else, is what it seems to be because that sells. It's kind of like the old saying: a dog bites man. That's not news. Man bites dog. We're all over that one. So
Yeah.
you'd think watching the news that men are running all over the place biting dogs. So basically, most of what's in the media is sensationalized on both sides, and I would ignore that. So, what does the research show? The research shows that if you're under 40 or even under 50 or 60, the odds of having a serious outcome from this is relatively low in terms of death, certainly. Um, the research,
However, let me interrupt you. But at the same time, just a week ago or two, in the news was a 32-year-old man. Maybe this was a friend. Maybe it wasn't in the news, but uh, uh, somebody around the age of 32 ate well, exercised, died of COVID. And
Mhm.
I do know that a lot of hospitals are saying George died of COVID. Maybe he didn't have it. There are rumors about that, but this was a factual case, and he
Right,
died relatively quickly
right,
after being
and
diagnosed.
exactly. And Mark, there's somebody probably in their 30s who died 3 days ago, who drowned.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're not going to panic everybody about swimming. But if it was, and every drowning was reported, and we have over 100 people who die being, strangled by their own bed sheets in the middle of the night. And if every time somebody happened, we put on the news today, and Jimmy Joe died strangled to death by and Susan, we can panic people about everything. But in terms of the actual risk relative to dying of car crashes, drownings, and all these other things that occur, it is real. I'm not saying this to be ignored. I'm saying that it's more the approach of kind of like the World War II bombings of London, where it's keep calm and carry on. And here's what you do to stay safe. In others, can you imagine during the World War II bombings, if some generals were running around saying, "You're going to die, you're all going to die, you're going to die," if I was Churchill, I would have fired them.
right.
Okay. But if the generals are saying this is a serious thing, you need to know, you hear the alarms, you go to the shelters, be calm, go there. Here's what you do to be safe. Here's what you stockpile the food and water. So you have now that's something that I can get behind. Here's what you do. So here's what you can do to sail through COVID.
Hold on
Number
one second, and that is that it seems to me that not only the U.S. has maybe expanded what COVID really is, but it is a pandemic. It's worldwide. I think a couple of days ago, in of all places, Minnesota, they may have found a variant of COVID-19, right?
We
And
can
they
presume.
that they say trace to Brazil. I mean, it's just all this stuff is coming at us, and it is literally scaring the pants off of us.
Mark, I remember when I was 5 years old and I lived on the Lake Erie in Cleveland, Ohio, and all these horrible freezing fronts, cold fronts coming from Canada. And I remember 5 years old, why don't they make the Canadians stop doing that? You know, and by the time I was 8, I was figured out that, oh, it's not their fault. It's just this is the flow and how things flow. The weather flows this way, infection patterns flow that way. And this whole idea of, well, is it Brazil's fault? Is it China's fault? Is like, okay, no, it's Canada's fault. We got that snowstorm because of them. I'm going to sue them. It's like, no, deal with a problem. And it's not hard. For the COVID, again, if you take zinc, and I recommend 50 milligrams a day for a month and then 15 milligrams a day ongoing. Again, at first sign of infection, vitamin D. All kinds of ranges. Some people use none, some use a couple thousand, 10,000. Dr. Fauci takes it. The media doesn't report that he takes it himself every day. Generally, they ignore that
Yeah, he did
because
say he did come out and say he was taking vitamin D and encourage people to do it because I think 50% or more of the people who are really sick from COVID have vitamin D deficiencies, and absolutely, it's been shown that most Americans, many Americans, have a vitamin D deficiency,
absolutely. So these simple
except for those
things.
who live in Hawaii, like you.
Even people in Hawaii get it, maybe a bit less. So simple things. A good multivitamin. I'll use Clinical Essentials combined with something called ViraPro. That's what I take myself. I don't have worry about going out. I go out. I live my life. I'll do common sense masking and social distancing when I'm in public. Outside, I'm not going to wear the mask. That's just stupid. Unless I'm right up, within 6 feet of somebody else. And Dr. Fauci has said the same thing. He noted when he and his wife are going for walks, he does not, the mask is down here over his, under his chin. If he walks, close to somebody, he flips it over his face for a few seconds and then he takes it back off again. So, these common sense things, instead of, you find you're walking down the street without a mask and you're 100 feet from anybody and people are shooting you daggers like you're trying to kill them, with their eyes. It's That's misinformation. This is not what the science shows. So common sense, social distancing, mask when you're in a public place. When you're outdoors and you're not close to other people, you don't need the mask. Um, Doing the clinical essentials and the ViraPro to optimize immune function is what I do myself. At first sign of infection, again, the research is very, very suggestive now. The medication, which is a antiparasitic called ivermectin, given early in the disease, is associated with an 83% lower risk of dying. Taking aspirin is associated with a lower risk. If you start the adult aspirin at the time of the onset, the risk is much lower because you don't get the clotting issues as much, the antiplatelets. Colchicine, old gout medicine, also associated, if I remember, at about a 50% lower risk of death. There are so many things that can be very, very helpful. The problem is the media will only, by and large, focus. They may give quick lip mention, but the big focus goes on whoever their advertisers are. So if you're making remdesivir and you happen to be the third largest pharmaceutical advertiser, that's going to be all over the front page, like hallelujah.
Well,
But
let's
things are more effective don't get the attention.
let's talk about big pharma. I'm not a big fan. Uh,
No,
uh, I'm
they're
not a
nice
big.
people.
I'm sorry.
They're nice people.
Oh well,
They're
yeah,
not bad people. They're just doing their job, which is to make money for their
exactly.
shareholders.
But it's like insurance companies. I find formularies for prescription drugs to be anti anti-consumer. I just don't get it. I mean, if there's a drug out there that's going to help save myself from left arm disease, and they'll cover right arm disease, but they won't cover left arm disease. I think that's terrible.
Well, no, I think they're doing the right thing with the formularies, Mark. You have to understand that, I tend to have a free market approach to things, which is kind of let
Yes.
the price and the value. That's totally wiped out in the drug industry. Number one, they have de facto price fixing. A new drug comes out, it's almost routinely set within a few cents of the price of the old one. They have a monopoly. The government has mandated that anything that's cheap cannot get on the market and be promoted to compete with them, unless you go through a $400 million regulatory process, which you can't do for something that costs 10 cents. You can do something for 24,000 a year. So the only way the insurance companies can keep us from getting raped, and then because we think that these medications are free,
Right.
because we're paying the money out of our back pocket, we don't see it coming out of our checking account because we have insurance and it's free. No, it's not. And the insurance companies have learned they can charge what, not the insurance, the pharmaceutical companies have learned they can charge whatever they want. They make a new medication that should be $5 a month. No, it's $24,000 a year, for no good reason except that they can and that people think it's free. I think that we need to know what we're paying, and the formulary is the insurance way of trying to protect us. I know it's a hard concept a bit, but it is, from being raped by the pharmaceutical industry, because they can then say, look, there's three drugs, four drugs do the same thing, and they're charging 24,000 for one and $10 for the other. We're only going to cover the $10 one.
Right. And I
And,
think
and
that's
suddenly
going
the $24,000 drug goes down to the $100 a year,
right. And I think that's
as it
wrong
should be.
because you as an MD should tell me, hey, I believe that $24,000 a year drug is going to work for you better than the $10 one.
If I think it's going to work $24,000 worth better,
Yes.
then I will push for people to get it. But that's in about 2% of the cases that's so. In a French study, only 2% of new drugs are improvements over the old ones. But you can guess, because they're under patent, they will be insanely more expensive. So in the vast majority of cases, a few exceptions like the hepatitis, antivirals, a few things like that, where the cost is probably justified. But most of them, it's not. The price of something has nothing to do with the value. But the drug companies have learned that if they send these really good looking cheerleaders, I'm not cheerleaders, drug reps,
Yeah.
to come
That's both men
and
and women.
not seduce us, to encourage us. Yes, and they hire cheerleaders for the guys and for the gals. I'm not sure, but they're good-looking guys coming in the reps, and they know to a penny how much I've sold, and they are know how to push and encourage and wheedle to get us to use their drug, even though it's really no better and probably worse often than the cheap one.
And one of the things that over the years that you and I have talked, and is that you practice integrative medicine. So if you can tell your patient, hey, take a supplement, and that'll help, or if there's a pharmaceutical drug, you will prescribe that. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
basically, I go based on the science, and the science shows that by and large, the natural remedies are more effective, safer, and cheaper. But there are times that if I have a pneumonia, I'm treating a pneumonia, I'm not going to do the chakra work. I'm not going to do the rest. I'm going to put them on the antibiotic.
Right. What
And
about the for your patients who are over 70 or
mhm,
75? Right now, one of the pushes are two vaccines. One is shingles, and the other is pneumonia
mhm.
vaccine.
Well, again, there. I'm not a big vaccine person. I think that vaccines are important. That if you look at modern medicine, the four key areas where it's actually been an improvement over leeches and bleeding people is antibiotics, uh, the treating emergency medicine like trauma and injury or gallbladder attacks or appendicitis, things like that, vaccines and plumbing. We don't throw our poop in the street anymore. Those are the four things. Most everything else, you can argue that this caused more harm than good in many areas.
Interesting.
Um, so the vaccines, you don't remember smallpox, polio sucked. I will tell you, I'm very happy there was a polio vaccine and a smallpox vaccine. On the other hand, I don't agree with turning our kids into pincushions. Fortunately, they removed the mercury finally from most of the vaccines. Um, so the question is, which ones are worthwhile, which ones not? In terms of the COVID vaccine, uh, I think that there's, if for no other reason than the American people and public in general has been terrified so much by this disease because it got politicized that there's no way for people to get from where they are to feeling safe again. If the vaccine is this talisman they can put around their neck and cross themselves, even though I'm Jewish, and and do what they need to do to feel safe,
Right.
I think the benefit of that outweighs the risk. On the other hand, for those under 60 who really don't want to do the vaccine, and you don't have a strong risk factors, there's a good argument not to. The argument saying, well, if you don't take the vaccine, you're a public health problem for everybody else. No, you're not. The vaccine is 95% effective. Anybody who wants to take the vaccine and be safe can take it. And the idea of mandating it is an absurdity. On the other hand, I think that the way it is now, which is that people in nursing homes are getting it immediately, is a very good idea. Frontline healthcare workers, I think it should be optional, because what happens if we find out that there really is a major problem and suddenly we look up 6 months from now and our frontline healthcare workers are all out of the game? That's not going to be pretty. But there's an argument for them doing it. Personally, I have not taken it as a doctor. I could have gotten it already, but I'm choosing to wait 3 months and let them experiment on 20 million other people, see how they do. And then in 3 months, I probably will take it. Even though I'm 31, I was born over 50 years ago, so I'll go ahead and take it.
But we only look 31. Our guest is Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, and we're having a conversation about really life in these here United States, if not the entire world. We're talking about COVID. His newest book, I think it's an update, is From Fatigue to Fantastic. Is there any correlation, doctor, between the fatigue of media COVID and fibromyalgia?
Absolutely. As Dr. Fauci has noted, most people who have what's called long hauler syndrome, which means they're having persistent COVID symptoms months after, most of those have post viral chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. It's the same disease. I had it myself. In 1975, I came down when I was in med school. I came down with post viral, and it was a nasty viral infection. It knocked me out of medical school and left me homeless for most of a year. And
What?
yeah, I was sleeping in parks. And it was funny. It was as if the universe put a holistic homeless medical school sign on my park bench. Naturopaths came by. I didn't even know there were naturopaths as a med student. I was a good Jewish boy, the way to be healers who got your MD or a doctor, you
Right.
know. But I could be a naturopath. There's, herbalist, nutritionist, energy workers came by. All of them taught me bits and pieces of what I needed to learn to recover. And
And
then
then
I
you
went
went
back to
back to
medical
medical
school and
school.
got honors.
Yeah.
I did good. I was able to heal up enough and I did well. So I understand post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome. And I've spent the last 45 years researching and teaching about this. We've published a number of studies on effective treatment for those of you who have the combination of can't sleep despite being exhausted, widespread pain, and brain fog. You have CFS and fibromyalgia. And our published placebo-controlled research showed that 91% of people improve with an average 90% increase in quality of life by treating the energy crisis with what we call SHINE: sleep, hormones, infections, nutrition, exercise as able, just minimal to condition. Um, we just had a new study accepted for publication that a serum nutritional factor called recovery factors resulted in 60% of people improving with their CFS and fibro, with an average 69% increase in quality of life. That you can get online at www.recoveryfactors.com. So that can help anybody who wants to increase energy, cognition, and just improve overall well-being, sleep, pain. Uh,
And what's it? What? Give us the that website again.
www.recovery, recovery, factors, factors.com. Uh, Follow the dosing instructions on the website. It comes from Europe, and it's remarkable. It's been giving a lot of people their lives back. We're just starting a study now. In fact, those who are watching, if you have fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome, my email address is fatigue, FATIGUE, DOC, like doctor, at gmail.com. This is a study you can do from home. There's no blood testing needed. And if you have chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia, and on a 0 to 10 scale, you rate yourself less than a 5, this is a study using ginseng, but a special form of ginseng. Most will not do it, which we've seen also to be very, very helpful for people and just for energy in general. It's called HRG80 red ginseng. If you'd like to be in the study just from home, easy as pie, no cost, of course, involved, shoot me an email, say you'd like to be in the study, and we'll send you where you can register and how you can do it.
A lot of
Uh,
people right now are not sleeping well, or if they do sleep, they sleep for 4 or 5 hours. They wake up. Uh, we've talked to sleep experts, and I think even you and I have talked about, you need to get sleep. My father used to say, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," and then he died very young.
yeah,
You
that
know,
didn't
um,
work out too well. Yeah,
didn't work out very well for him.
yeah,
My point is that waking up, you should feel refreshed, energized, ready to meet the world. But today, especially now because of COVID, I think people are waking up and going, "Oh my God, what am I going to do now?"
yes,
You know.
yeah. The stress suppresses the hypothalamic sleep center. And that's why you'll see in fibromyalgia the paradox of can't sleep despite being exhausted tells you that you've really tripped that circuit breaker and gone into this condition. So let's start with how much sleep is the right amount. And that's like saying what shoe size is the right size. This is not one size fits all. Take a weekend, let yourself sleep in, and see how many hours leaves you feeling the best. For me, it's 9 hours a night. To give some perspective, the average night sleep in the United States until light bulbs were invented 140 years ago was 9 hours a night. That was the average night's sleep that most Americans got. Now we're down to 6 and 3 quarters, and we are a sleep deprived nation. And that has a lot of problems attached to it: weight gain, poor energy, fatigue, cognitive problems, chronic pain. All of that can come from inadequate sleep. So get your sleep. If you have trouble sleeping, there are all kind of herbal and natural things. There's a mix of 6 herbs called the Revitalizing Sleep Formula. There's a mix of 4 essential oils called Terrific ZZZZ. Both of those will leave most people sleeping like kittens and puppies. If you're doing a melatonin, Walgreens and Amazon has a melatonin made by Nature's Bounty called Dual Spectrum, the 5 milligram, that the people I treat find works the best for them. There's so much you can do for sleep. CBD and hemp oil. I like Hemp Select as a form that I use. But those who wake 2 in the morning, sometimes it's just a drop in blood sugar from the stress. And eating, the way you tell is to eat a hard boiled egg or 2, 3 ounces of meat or cheese or fish before bedtime and see if that helps. That'll tell you in 2, 3 nights. If so, you're just having a low blood sugar and a protein. The key is protein snack before bedtime can help that.
Interesting. Let's talk about CBD for a minute. I've tried, as the host here on Late Night Health, I've tried numerous CBD products. They don't seem to do anything
A
for me.
lot of them spend all their money on the label and the marketing.
Right.
And what's actually in the bottle. Some of them, the labeling is so difficult unless you really know how to tear it apart. The label is so misleading as to what's in it. I'm very picky about what I use. I use the Hemp Select, which is a brand that I use. But if you live in a state where they have the formularies are much more likely to have a good quality CBD. Where most of the stores and stuff, we have the pretty labels with all. It's You may find that again, there's nothing in there to do much.
Well,
I like the
I
entire
know
hemp oil though.
that I'll see a bottle. It'll say 500 milligrams of CBD. Well,
Mm,
you think, oh, I'm going to get that much
per
per
dose.
dose. And it's
Mm-mm.
that in a 16-ounce bottle.
And sometimes it's not even that. It's CBD containing oil. So you may have 10 milligrams of CBD in the whole bottle in 490 milligrams of some kind of soybean oil. It's They play with the label. And again, unless you're really good at reading the labels, use one from somebody you know, somebody who you trust to be able to read the labels and to know just with working with people. So go to a formulary, or I like the Hemp Select. The Hemp Select, I'll find I will give 3 to 5, but CBD is going to be pricey. So if you're getting the 30 to 50 milligrams needed for a good night's sleep, that's going to cost you $3 to $5, give or take a little bit more. If it's costing you much less than that, then you know they're lying. If they're selling you $100 bill for $5, be suspicious.
Got it.
For pain, I'm going to use the CBD, usually 30 milligrams twice a day. I'll use a hemp select 3 twice a day for pain, 5 for sleep. For calming people, I'll go ahead and use it. It's very, very good, but you'll know pretty quickly. So if it's not helping within 3, 4 days, then it's not worth the cost. Go to something else. And
And
there's so much else you can go to.
and I should go back to melatonin. Can you take too much melatonin?
You'd be hard pressed. In the beginning, when I started talking about it 30 years ago, we did not know what the long-term effects of super high dosing would be. So I told people keep it to 3/10 to 5/10 of a milligram. But now, 20 to 30 years later, we've seen people taking massive doses. And it also seems to help, by the way, with COVID. It seems to be associated with lower risk in the research. I personally take 5 milligrams a night using Nature's Bounty. That also helps the acid reflux. Although for acid reflux, an immediate release melatonin might be better at 5 milligrams, but to get you sleeping through the night, the mixed sustained release, this is why I recommend the other brand, may be helpful. But no, we've not seen any safety issues with going with high doses with it. So I'm okay with it now.
The acid reflux is also known as the Jewish stomach. Um,
Matzo ball soup, chicken
and
soup, it'll
matzo
help you.
ball soup will help
Yeah.
exactly. And I occasionally have acid reflux and have tried numerous things. I think the last thing I tried was, and it worked, was apple cider vinegar. Just a hit of that,
Well,
and
here's the thing. Yeah, Mark, you want to break the acid reflux into two components. There's daytime acid reflux, which usually comes from poor digestion of food. And to digest your food, you need plant-based digestive enzymes and stomach acid. Most people in the digestion, especially if they're over 45, have too little stomach acid, not too much. Now, even if we have too little and it's squirting in this food pipe where it doesn't belong and burning, you turn it off with an acid blocker. Well, you're going to have less symptoms, even though you need more acid. Uh, but the thing is, if you knock out your total stomach acid that way, the research shows that in COVID, people taking the PPI acid blockers have 2 to 3 times the risk of dying from COVID
oh my,
if they're taking things like the little purple pill and the rest. On the other hand, people taking Pepcid or Tagamet or Zantac, which is off the market because of contaminants for a little bit, have a lower risk of dying from COVID. So the my estimate is that the PPI acid blockers contribute to over 30,000 excess U.S. deaths each year.
oh
This is
my.
not a small thing. So basically, taking a plant-based digestive enzyme like Complete Just, um, adding things like apple cider vinegar or rice wine. Any vinegar is acidic. It's like stomach acid, not to be confused with Hasidic, but no, it's acidic, and it goes ahead and will help digest the food. So you noted that when you took the acid cider vinegar to digest the food, you got less indigestion. So you do these simple things. There's a free phone app called Cures, Cures, capital A dash C. There's a $2 upgrade, which is good, but not essential. Um, and you look up
Say that again a little bit slower.
Cures, Cures, capital A dash Z. It's a phone app. You got to find iPhone, Google, Android. It will go through and look up reflux or heartburn. It'll talk about here's how you make the heartburn go away. Because if you just stop your acid blocker, these medications are addictive. You're going to get rebound acid secretion from hell. You need to learn how to wean it off and how to fix digestion. Nighttime acid reflux, a very different thing. The app will go through a step-by-step program. Here's what you do for both.
Again, our guest is Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. I always have so much fun and learn so much. I promised him a half hour, and we're just about there now. Let's talk about fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. They're not getting the dollars for research. You've done research on this, but they're not getting the dollars, and it is
They are now.
an epidemic of I know of people with chronic fatigue right now.
They're getting it now. It used to be one of the lowest amount of dollars per serious illness of any disease. It was like $12 million that they finally got up to it for fibromyalgia at the NIH last year. This year, they're allocating about $1.15 billion to research post-COVID persistent symptoms, which by and large is as Dr. Fauci has noted, post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome. So here's the thing: for those of you with CFS or fibromyalgia, basically exhausted and can't sleep, widespread pain, brain fog, you got that, and then you've got it. This is very, very treatable. The problem is lack of physician education. The book From Fatigue to Fantastic, that's that book right over my shoulder over there. I'll be a shameless plug. Will teach you how to recover from the disease. Our research has proven that it's very treatable, and post-viral chronic fatigue syndrome, post-COVID also is. For the post-COVID, you need to treat what's with a book, but also if you have shortness of breath, get a pulse oximeter. You can get them for $30 from Amazon. It's a little clip you put on your finger, and it will tell you your oxygen saturation. If it's over 97% and you're short of breath, it is not a problem with your lungs or heart. It's good to know that. There's many other things that cause shortness of breath, but naturally, there's many things you can do to help the lungs heal, to help the heart heal. This is very, very, very treatable. And I would note I do treat people worldwide. And having had it myself, this is an area near and dear to my heart. Uh, my goal is to teach more and more physicians so that people can get the help they need.
And I know that if you go to your website, you can make appointments and talk to Dr. Teitelbaum through Zoom or Skype. I don't know how you do it.
You know,
And
there are all kinds of ways. The website is vitality101.com. It will walk you through how to recover. There's a 4-step program there. It'll just walk you through what to do.
Vitality One,
01.com, vitality101.com.
got it.
And then for supplements, endfatigue.com. But
And
again, for the information, we want to start is vitality101.com.
and we
It'll
will
walk
have
you through.
we've had both of your websites up during this entire time, and we also have had a picture of your book hanging somewhere between you and me. I really appreciate this. Will you come back and not make it 10 months again?
Anytime. In fact, what I'll do is I'll ship you some Mai Tais. In Hawaii here, we like to have that. And we can both talk while sipping Mai Tais. It'll take the level of conversation to a whole nother place.
Oh, I'd love that. That would be great. Cocktail hours, happy hours, right? We'll have a happy hour with Dr. Teitelbaum. I love it. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, Hawaiian style.
Uh, what fun. And a lot of great information. Vitamin D, zinc, vitamin C. Those are the recommendations from Dr. Teitelbaum. Look forward to talking with you again. I'm Mark Alyn. This is Late Night Health. We'll be back very soon. Bye bye for now.
You will.